Welcome to Loyalize, a podcast by D-Squares about customer engagement and customer loyalty. At D-Squares, we prioritize building meaningful relationships through our end-to-end loyalty solutions. Welcome to the Loyalize podcast. We're bringing all the industry experts to share their insights on how to win over customers over and over again and how to reach success. Today, I'm joined by personal, inspiring co-founder of Lynkers in Nawy and an MIT alumnus, Abdel-Azim Osman.
You did your homework.
A lot, of course.
You're giving me more than I deserve.
Welcome to Loyalize أول حاجة.
Thank you.
Can you please give me a brief about your professional background?
Yeah, as you said, I graduated from MIT. Started out working in consulting at Booz Allen Hamilton at the beginning, based out of Egypt. Was fun times. It was also very stressful, very long hours. A year in, figured out that this is not what I wanted to do. Joined the family business for just under 7 years, which was mainly construction and building materials. Near the end of the 7 years, I was managing 2 companies with over 700 employees. And at that point, Mustafa Al-Biltegi, one of our co-founders at Nawy, convinced me to jump ships and join the good side and leave what I now call the dark side and co-found what eventually became Nawy.
What are your key takeaways, especially in such a, let's say, a competitive and not so easy model, which is real estate or property? And if I can recall, in one of your events, you said that buying a property is perhaps the second hardest decision a man can take.
Yeah, so you did your homework. Yeah, so I always like to say that probably the toughest decision someone takes in their life is picking their life partner, right? It's a very tough decision. Some people get very lucky, some people make mistakes, but it's a very tough decision. Probably the second toughest decision, at least for me, is buying a home. For me, it's a permanent decision. It's a difficult decision. I don't do very well with big decisions, but it's a tough decision. I got very lucky with my wife on that one. So I let her pick the properties when we're buying properties. But it's a very tough decision. It's a very stressful decision. But kind of the ethos at Nawy, or the goal at Nawy, is to try to simplify that process as much as possible. And that comes in 2 main pillars, right? So the first pillar is I want to be as transparent as possible. So whereas some of our competitors will hide data online to try to get the customer to contact them, maybe not put the price, maybe put an inaccurate price or inaccurate pictures just as clickbait. And then once they have the customer, then they tell them, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to update the price or I put the wrong picture. We try to go 100% transparent. Let's be as accurate as possible, have everything in front of the client to make the decision easier for them. So that's the first pillar, transparency. The second pillar is to actually be unbiased when you're supporting the buyer. So what we do very differently than I believe everyone in the market is we incentivize our property consultants equally across all projects. So even though some real estate developers may pay us half the commission of another developer, I incentivize my property consultants equally across. So the property consultant never has an incentive to push you towards one project rather than another. Whereas most people, when they work with a property consultant in our industry, they clearly feel that they're being pushed towards a specific development. And if you kind of look at that, it's almost always the development where they're going to be making a higher commission. Let's say we're working with real estate developer X, and here I don't want to name any names. And X will pay Nawy a 4% commission if we close a sale. Developer Y may pay us only 2%, right? Each company has its own rules and how they pay out commissions. The way we incentivize our property consultants, we will pay them the same commission if they sell with X or with Y, even if it makes more sense for a company for us to have the customer buy from X. Because I don't want the property consultant to push Bob towards a property that doesn't match his needs. Which brings me to the question, so having worked in real estate now for a long time, I get asked by family, by friends a lot of times, what's the best property to buy? Or what's the best apartment to buy? And to me, that question is wrong. There's no such thing as the best property. The best property is what's best for that individual, right? So if we look at Bob might enjoy very exclusive, quiet communities, right? So the neighborhood that he wants to live in is a quiet, small neighborhood. Someone else, not me. I'm a very quiet person. I much more prefer the suburbs. Someone else might like the nightlife, the fancy restaurants. So when you tell me what's the best apartment, no, I think you always have to start with, well, what does Bob want? Does Bob want to live in a compound that has all these facilities for younger children with a nice school that his kids can go to? Or is Bob someone whose kids have already went to college and he just wants to live, probably doesn't want nightlife if he's older in age, but maybe so. Bob still isn't married and he wants a place with a lot of nightlife, or he's just newly married and doesn't want kids now. It depends on your needs, what property is best for you. So there's no absolute what is the best compound. It depends on the needs of the customer.
And how can you pinpoint the needs of the customer?
That comes with the discussion between them, right? So what we see at Nawy is, even though we put everything on our website and application and we try to be as detailed and meticulous as possible, is a lot of times our buyers will come requesting a specific property, but once they sit with a property consultant and have a discussion with them, the majority of them end up buying a different property, right? Because once they know what's out there in the market, they may make a different choice.
This takes me to another question. So in the life cycle stage of your customers, they end up hopefully at buying. Is there a way to retain these customers?
So there are a few ways, but I'm a firm believer, and this is what we've seen: offer the best service and customer experience, and people will either come back or they will recommend friends and family. So if you go on our Facebook page, so we have two types of reviews, right? We have reviews that happen on our app and website, and those are generally, the majority of those are people who interact with the tech part, right? So those reviews are based upon the technology. How well did the app work? Did I find what I wanted? But then you have reviews on Facebook, and almost every single review on Facebook we get is based upon the experience that they had with our property consultants. And review after review, if you go through them, are 5-star reviews. This is the first time I interact with a property consultant who cared about me, who cared about my needs, and who didn't push me towards a specific property. And we firmly believe in that at Nawy, and that comes a lot from our CEO, Mustafa, is the decision is always made based upon a customer-centric decision. Even if it's going to cost us profits, we believe that on the long term, if you're offering a superior experience, you're always going to get, it's always going to be more beneficial for you as a company.
So as the CMO, what's your metric for success? Because I don't think you are a very data-driven individual, and you're cascading this towards the whole organization. So I don't think mere numbers and conversion rates and cost per clicks, these are not the end result. So if you would choose one metric, what would it be?
For me, as a co-founder of a company, it's every time I read one of those reviews where someone actually goes out of their way to review and say, this was the best experience I've ever had dealing with a property consultant. That's what makes me sleep happy at night when I see those reviews. And we actually celebrate those reviews as a company, both as an executive team and as an organization as a whole. Real estate agents call me more than my wife does. And it's probably true for the majority of us. At Nawy, that's not the practice that we encourage. That's not what we do. We're much more of people coming to us than going out and hunting down people. Generating the leads at the right price in the proper manner.
So it's still in the cost per click, cost per lead area. So it's pure marketing. What would you give as an advice when it comes to companies in general, entrepreneurs in general, who are trying to boost or optimize how customers perceive them?
One, listen to your customers. A lot of people don't listen to their customers. They have assumptions of what their customers want. If you're not listening to your customers, then you've already probably lost half of the game. Listen to them, appreciate what they have to say, and then try to think of unique ways to resolve their problems or to address their needs.
So listen, think, and solve. This is the formula. How can you apply such a formula in PropTech for not to boost customer experience and satisfaction, but to bring the same customer again? Is that possible?
In PropTech or real estate, it is harder because most people aren't buying properties like bags of chips or candy. Some people do. I'd love to be some of those people. I'd love to be one of those people one day, but I can't afford to do that. It's an experience they go through, right? If they go through a very unique experience that is unmatched anywhere else, then they will always remember you when they want to buy. We can do things using our technology, like we have stuff on our app and website that if you buy a property, we send you updates about what's happening to your property's construction, reminders of when your payments are due to the real estate developer, and kind of stay top of mind for you. But I think customer experience is the most important thing.
So it's all about using the technology, and this is what you mentioned. So it's technology and data. But I think looking at Nawy and looking at the activities, I think there's more into that. How can you ensure that there's a human touch or a human connection? How can you form a relationship with your customer or your prospect potential customers using technology?
Offering them additional services, right? A typical brokerage will sell you the property, and once they've sold you the property, you're probably never going to hear from them again, right? But if you're constantly giving them more added value, stuff like reminders of when your due dates are, what's happening with the construction of your property, updates on the price of your property, how it's appreciating over time, then you're kind of trying to stay top of mind for them. So the best example of this, I think, goes to a PropTech in the US called Zillow. They are the property listing website of the US. And what they did is they came up with something called Zestimate, where go and write the address of any property in the US, and they will tell you what the current price of it is, along with all the historicals. Granted, they have a lot more data. Now we had to build a lot of the data ourselves. Zillow, everything's readily available in the US government. But then what they realized was that almost all the people on their website were using this just to see the value of their house and how it appreciates over time. So they remain top of mind for people who own properties up until the moment when those people were either ready to sell or ready to buy, and then naturally they would go back to Zillow because they were constantly already going there. At Nawy, almost 25 to 30% of our customers are people living abroad. They're mainly Egyptian expats. Partially because we are a tech company and we do a lot of online advertisement, but it is a significant portion of the buyers. So one of their biggest pain points is they want to buy a property.
Can't buy what you can't see.
You can't buy what you can't see, and then they talk to the real estate developer and he says, come to our office and come look at the physical maquette or look at the printed brochure. But our solution to that was we took Unreal Engine, which is the engine that the game GTA is built on, and we render these projects up in GTA mode, internal property consultants to use. And eventually we're going to open it up to the real estate developers to use for their customers. And essentially you just walk through the development that today is desert. So if you go to one of these developments, it's still desert, it's not built. You see all the properties, you get to see the ones that are available. You can walk into it, see how it can be furnished, look at the view from your window, which gives you a lot more ability as a customer to make a much more informed decision rather than looking at a printed PDF or a maquette that's in front of you.
And what was the rationale? Why did you do it?
For the customer. Again, it was all, can I give a better service to my customer? Yes, I can. This is a better service. Let's do this. This product, I think, has been in development for almost 2 years now. Don't quote me on the dates, but I believe it's been 2 years now. We haven't revenued a penny off of it, but it is for the customer. It is for the experience.
If you would give an advice as a PropTech, real estate, marketing expert.
It goes back to think of your customer, think of what your customer needs, put profits on the side for now, build for sustainability. If you're building to maximize profits today, you're definitely losing on the long run. Customers can see it, customers can feel it. Focus on what they need, how to give it to them, even at the cost of your own profits. But never make the decision to maximize profits over customer experience.
Can you recall your first customer? The first success, the first time you celebrated?
I actually know the customer name. I know the customer name, and I know that we sold the property he bought from us a few years later. But that was one of our aha moments of this works, right? Because this was all faith at the beginning. It was, can I do digital marketing for real estate in Egypt online and sell a property or not? And I remember the first property we sold was sold in Guna. And a few years later, the same customer came back to us and asked us to sell the property, and we sold it for them.
Can you consider this guy a loyal customer?
For sure. For sure. He chose us when we were an infant of a company. He was our first customer. So he made the conscious decision to work with us. And he enjoyed the experience enough that when he wanted to sell his property, he came back to Nawy for that service, right? He could have went to any other brokerage in the world.
How can you tell what's making customers happy? And how can you stay on top of the new things that will make your customers happy? Of course, data and analyzing the patterns. And how can you be on top of the trends? Actually, how can you create some trends? Because Nawy is not...
But that's really difficult, right? So how do you stay on top of trends? And this is kind of what I learned in consulting, right? Is you start benchmarking. So let's look at all the regions in the world. Let's look at what everyone else is doing around the world. Who's doing what and how well. And if someone's doing something very well, you don't always need to reinvent the wheel. So if they're doing something well, let's try to do what they're doing. Yes, you may have to customize it to your market because not all markets are the same. And you try to look for similar markets, right? So some countries are more similar to others, and you try to do what they're doing. This may not always work for you. Sometimes you may have to do something that no one else is doing just because that seems to be what your customers need.
You already mentioned experiential activities and giving experiences to your customers, using their data properly to personalize how you're reaching out for them. So these are some of the pillars that are going on. What are your pillars? So this is what I'm inferring.
So we generate 98% of our leads online, mainly on Google and Meta's platforms. We do a few things, right? One, we have a very sophisticated algorithm of how we distribute the leads that we get, right? So if Bob is living in California and he filled out the form on a compound in Sahel, there's a lot of sophistication on which property consultant is handling Bob, right? I don't want Bob to go to a property consultant who doesn't speak a word of English. I don't want Bob to go to a property consultant who understands new capital but has no idea how to sell a property in Sahel. But there's a lot of sophistication on how we assign our leads and how many leads each property consultant gets. And this all goes back to the data. So based upon the historical trends of every property consultant, which leads are going to them and how many leads are going to them. Because if each property consultant is being given too many leads, then he's unable to handle them. Zuckerberg says this a lot, is a lot of people hate seeing ads, but what people hate more is seeing irrelevant ads, right? So if you have the right data, you can target the right people, which ends up solving a need that they may have, like buying a property, rather than showing the ad to someone who's not interested in buying the property. This part of the experience is making sure you're showing your ads to the right people, giving them the right experience throughout the whole process until they buy the property. And that comes with showing it to the right people, giving them to the right person to handle them, who can speak their language, who can show them is well knowledge of what they want to discuss and not getting a bad experience. Because if you think of Bob buying in Sahel, if he goes to a property consultant who has no idea how to sell property in Sahel, then he goes through a bad experience.
So it's the tech, it's your internal processes, and it's your experience, if I may say, or your understanding to the human nature. Is that correct?
Try to do 100% of everything. You may not get to 100% of everything, but don't leave any stone unturned.
Who would you choose to sit in this chair?
For an interview?
For an interview.
My top pick probably would be Mustafa Amin, the founder of Breakfast, and Ahmad Hamouda, founder of Thunder. I think those would be two great people.
Perfect.
There are a lot of other great people. I don't want to forget any names, but those would be my
I'll take
top
your
two
word
recommendations.
I'll take your word for it 100%. Let's play a quick game of Would You Rather. So, would you rather earn points through interactive games? So you have to play a game and level up in terms of in order to reach a level. Oh, so
I need to hear.
I did not. And would you actually do it for purchases? Would you do it outside the gaming, the actual I'm here to game?
Always.
Would you prefer to refer your friends and family and get a reward out of it, or just stick to the straightforward plain discount codes and vouchers?
Discount codes and vouchers.
So an action, a certain action will get me a discount. I don't have to interact with somebody else. I'll be on
If
low.
referring someone will get them a discount, then I'll gladly do it. Then I'll do it.
Mutual benefit for both.
Even if I'm not getting a benefit.
Oh,
I prefer the discount. I prefer giving people discounts.
to wrap it up, I need your vision on the industry and the industry trends.
My vision on the industry, I think, globally, طبعا AI will play a big role. Might take longer in Egypt for AI to play a role, but what we've seen in the advancement of AI across the board, it's beyond what any of us can fathom. At least it's beyond what I can fathom. What's happening with AI today is very different than what's happening with AI tomorrow and the following day, and it's evolving much faster than anyone can imagine, I think, beyond our comprehension. Can I imagine a world where you're only dealing with AIs like what Elon Musk is saying, having a droid who's an AI that's supporting you in everything you need? Yes, I can imagine that world. I tried the Apple Vision Pro recently. I was a strong believer that this thing would never fly and it would never work. I tried it and it blew my mind. I could clearly see once I put that on that there could be a world. It's never going to be as bulky as it is today with an attachment that you have to put in your pocket and leave on a table. I think it's going to evolve from that. But I can clearly see a world where everyone is wearing some sort of Apple Vision Pro or some sort of device, interacting with the real world and interacting with the digital world at the same time. Now, if we take that towards real estate, what we do at Nawy is trying to optimize your experience, making sure you find the right property, making sure it happens for you smoothly. Thus, once AI starts playing a role in this, I think it's going to evolve much more aggressively and rapidly.
This has been extremely valuable. Thank you a lot, Abdelazim, again, and I really appreciate your appearance here.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.